And I think it's started now. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So welcome to our second meetup this month and a great follow-up to our last session on the XMLA endpoint capabilities. And with that, I hand over to you, Abhinav.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks, Otto. Welcome everyone to today's meetup. Today, we are going to cover things around XMLA endpoint and custom APIs for Power BI datasets. So I'm Abhinav, and I'm a BI and data visualization expert, primarily a Power BI architect now. Have been working in this space for around 14 years. Started with the development of SSRS, SSAS, worked in OLAP and multidimensional cubes too. And for last five years, I've been working in Power BI space, acted as evangelist, migration of RS reports, and slightly into Power Platform and Azure data side too. I currently work for an organization called as Centric Consulting, and I like to post and create content, post them usually on LinkedIn, and also an active part of Power BI forums communities. So you can find my solutions there. So to begin with, as Chris mentioned, we saw in last session that one of the key features of premium, right, which has been extended into premium per user space, is XMLA endpoint availability. And it brings up a lot of power to the Power BI space, because XML for analysis protocol, which is a protocol for communication between Power BI workspaces and all the clients, and bringing that to the premium per user capacity brings a host of capabilities. Now we can see that DAX Studio is one of the tools that can connect it via this. SSDT Visual Studio with analysis services projects, they can communicate with Power BI using XMLA endpoint. That is like, to an extent, you can deploy the current SSAS cubes to Power BI itself. So that is like, slicing out the thin layer between SSAS, S1, S0 nodes, and the Power BI space itself. So you could virtually deploy your cube altogether into Power BI with this XMLA endpoint read-write capability. And you can use those cubes to build up your Power BI reports further. So that removes any line between AS capabilities and the Power BI capabilities. Then comes the SQL Server Profiler, Power BI Report Builder, Tabular Editor, MDX Studio, Excel, SSMS2. So these all are different tools that can connect to Power BI, and I'm sure there are other tools as well out in the market which can now connect to Power BI workspaces. While I mentioned MDX Studio, you see that this is a tool which we used to work for with like the DAX Studio with multidimensional cubes for writing MDX. And I was so happy to see that this could still connect to Power BI. And that is all the power of XMLA endpoint capability, because this is a protocol and it has been existing for years, and one of the backbones of SSAS modeling. And that is the reason we can still connect from an old tool to the current Power BI datasets. So you'll be amazed to see that if you try that out. Then thereafter, we have client libraries, which we'll be covering in detail today. So client libraries are the interfaces with which Power BI can expose its data sets to external clients. So you can have a Angular application or any other application in the world that can communicate with your Power BI data sets using these client libraries. So it exposes immense capabilities from Power BI side. So today we see this topic as XMLA, how XMLA endpoint is used. We have Power BI data sets to the extreme end, which are accessed using ADMD Nugget packages, using a .NET Core API, that solution that we built. And then we write some code, we execute DAX in it, that is executed right on Power BI datasets, and we get the result set out. Now, when a client accesses this .NET Core API, they will know nothing about it. Will entirely be encapsulated, like it gets into any other API. For instance, if you want to get a product list from AdventureWorks database, you'll be able to get that, any measure, any calculation, total sales for a quarter, etc. So we'll be able to virtually create our own API that can cater to our client applications without knowing about that this is coming from Power BI. Similar to what capabilities that we have had in traditional SSAS cubes, right? When we were with multidimensional cubes or with tabular cubes, So this is a similar capability, and now we see this coming out right from Power BI side. So we'll exit this and we'll start with what we can see in demo. All right. So let me move to the Power BI portal. So we start with the creation of a premium workspace. Now I have already created this workspace. Now if we go to this workspace, we'll use this PPU tabular workspace here. So you see these list here. So I believe Chris already covered this in last session. So just referring to what we have done here, that is we created a premium per user capacity here and we save it. Now this is important to copy over this workspace connection because this is our access. This is what will enable us to access. This is its identity and this is what will enable us from any client application to access this workspace, that is any data set in this particular workspace. So once this is set up, another step that you need to take care of is enabling the XMLA endpoint. Now you'll go to the admin portal settings and you'll see this premium per user icon here. So by default, this may be read only or off. You need to proceed to read write capacity and click apply. It may take 10 to 15 minutes to reflect depending on where your tenant is, in which region, but it will be live soon. So once this is enabled, now let's see how this enables us to connect. So we saw in slides that we have SSMS connectivity to it, correct? So we have opened the SQL Server Management Studio and we connect to analysis services and we connect to it. And behind the scenes, this has been the capability that has enabled SSMS to connect with SSAS primarily previously. So we see the same capability launching here. Now I see my data sets right here, correct? And you could see all the tables here. And we could also virtually browse this cube here. And this is happening because we are accessing it through XMLA endpoint. If that was not enabled, we could not have done this. So this is ready, and you could virtually execute any DAX here that will run on this model. And this is a Power BI dataset, just to remind you. So you see that we are now connecting to a Power BI dataset, and this is just like how you connect to a SSAS dataset, SSAS tabular cube icon. So both of these, if we see, go back to the service and we look at our data sets, right? We have these data sets in place and those same data sets are reflecting right here. Now, the same, we also discussed that how XMLA endpoint enables it. We could look at the profiler too. So similarly, analysis services, you see the same address that we had copied over here. The same address is here. One thing in this is that while connecting via profiler, we will need to connect to a database. So just try mentioning, go to the connection properties and mention the database name there. So that when you connect it, it connects to that one. And now we are good to go. So if we enable this trace, we'll be able to look at this particular trace will be able to list any queries that is running on our Power BI dataset. So the idea was just to show up a couple of tools that connect via XMLA endpoint before moving to the client API actual one. So when I deployed this cube, I'm not covering that because it takes some time to deploy it here. But if we go back to our workspace and look at this tabular. So this was tabular AW. This did not have any Power BI report linked to it, and you could deploy it from SSTT platform directly to Power BI. All with XMLA endpoint capability being enabled. So you remember, Chris, you discussed in last one that how PPU workspace enable you to have same premium capabilities and also host larger data sets, correct? So that is one point where if you have small, up to 5 GBs, 10 GBs of data sets, you could now entirely ditch SSAS, S1 nodes, analysis services, and migrate them entirely to Power BI. And in fact, for smaller cubes, tabular cubes, you could switch away your deployment entirely to Power BI space. So not relying on any VM, any gateway or analysis services at all. And this does help with speeding it up. I still to do tests around that, but I already read content on internet about this that the datasets hosted right within Power BI tend to perform a lot better. My own tests have shown that they do, and that is obvious too. They do perform better than your tabular cubes hosted on your virtual machines. But in this capacity, they do. Even with compared with analysis services, these are expected to perform better here, as long as you do not have resource crunch coming in place. That is one thing that we cannot manage in PPU. It is auto managed. But yes, if you have a premium capacity and you can scale up, then it's worthwhile to deploy a cube to premium node itself. So now let's move to the current part of it, today's part of it, where we see how client libraries can be used to extend this. Now, whatever we covered so far was to introduce you to how XMLA is powerful enough for allowing the client applications to connect to Power BI. So in the same manner, these all applications actually behind the scenes are either using ADMD or AMO to connect to. And similarly, for extending this capability to developers, to open source world, we have these ADMD client libraries, ADMD nuggets or AMO constructs, which can decode responses in XMLA, and you can serve as an intermediary to analysis services instance, which is nothing else but our Power BI instance in this place, Power BI workspace and Power BI dataset. So these client libraries, if you see, this is Nugget Gallery. Okay, so if you search on the net, you'll be able to find this and you'll be able to access the ADMD client. These can be downloaded from here or can be accessed directly in a .NET Core API. So the idea here is now we connect to the XMLA, connect to the Power BI dataset via XMLA endpoint using this library and execute DAX on that and get a result set, and this result set is passed as a result set of this particular API call. So you see where we are going. We build up an API call, which in turn is encapsulated. That is that it encapsulates the DAX query that you execute. It encapsulates the Power BI source that you are using, and it serves truly as an API for the end user. And the end user then can be endless. It can be any given application, client application in the world, which is empowered to access anything hosted in Azure, any API. So when we create a new project here, so you see ASP.NET Core Web API. So this is the project that we select. And since we already have a project template for it, this is for a starter kit. I'm also not a .NET specialist. I have created this for POC purpose, just to demonstrate the capabilities. So I recommend that if you really go into this space and try developing this, go along with a .NET developer and build up this integration piece further. So if I select this and then I go and create this, we'll end up with something like I have already created this application. So we'll end up with something like this core API. Now, once we have this in place, this is the basic structure that you'll see here. You'll see startup and product class. This I've renamed this because I'm using the product one. Normally, it's a weather one that comes in the demonstration program and startup. So here's the point that where you could manage NuGet packages. So no need to download from web. You can simply type here ADUMD, right? And it shows up the libraries. We have different versions that come in. Current one 1922.01 that we're using. So it's showing installed because I already installed it. Otherwise, you'll see an install button here and you're good to go. So once this package is in, you're good to go there. Now, this is a small piece of code. It's not an optimized one because if we go with a code that we want to really build up a good library on, we'd be encapsulating this everything, creating connection string separately and then going about it. But just to show you the content, we have created a connection here, ADUMD connection to this Power BI dataset, and here again we have this connection string in place. You can get this connection string from your dataset level as well. We mentioned we saw that we could copy over the actual workspace connection string, workspace string address from the settings, right, in from premium. It's I don't think it's a bug, but it takes a few seconds to come up here. Every time you access an existing premium workspace, go over to premium, that you just saw that, right? So this is where you copy it from, or go to the dataset settings. And you copy over this whole connection string. Okay, creating the initial catalog. So this is what that you need to use in here. Okay. And keyed in credentials currently mine. And when you put in the connection open, it opens up a connection for you. And in the adapter, the ADMD data adapter, we are executing the DAX that needs to run it. So right now, this is a very simple one that is executing here. I'm getting all products right from the product table in AdventureWorks. This is filling of tabular results, iterating through them, and then converting them to an array. So now when we run this core API, so it will go into contain and get the connection, and these are debugging steps. So I'll go just pass those, pass. Right now it's connecting to Power BI and executing the DAX and getting the result set. So this is what you get back. All right, and this result set, whoever accesses this, once this API is hosted on Azure or anywhere else, they simply will have this address, kind of this address, and they will be able to get back the result set. So we kind of are building our custom API, like get product, the way we used to do services in past, even microservices. And similarly, in a similar behavior that we have expect out of APIs, we could have read APIs. You could also create execute ones wherein you can have parameters passed in. But this is a very basic example for getting the product. So if this someone was to, I provide this to any client application, for example, any Angular application, and they want to get the product out of it, they will simply call this API and they'll get all this list. So without knowing the nitty-gritties that lie behind this. So that will all be encapsulated. And this is what we are calling as custom development of your own custom APIs. this has been done in past for using ADMD in .NET applications when they used to interact heavily with cubes in multi-dimensional times with tabulars too. But with Power BI, since this has just started, premium per user has come in, and these capabilities with $20, right, can be extended to multiple clients, small and medium-sized clients too. So we can see that there may be a need soon to develop these kind of APIs for Power BI too. That is pretty much that we wanted to cover here in this short session. Any questions so far here?
No questions in the chat. Please feel free to post any questions, maybe from my side, to give the people some time if they have questions more in general on XMLA. You also briefly mentioned it, and also in the last session, I was not sure. Are there, do you know any third party, so non-Microsoft tools that already use XMLA? Are you aware of anything there, or because I couldn't, I of course found the Microsoft tools, and I think I read somewhere that Tableau was a tool, but
Yeah,
I'm not sure here.
I see.
Do you know of anything? Yeah, Tableau is like I read it somewhere. But do you know of any other bigger?
So, yeah, here is the thing.
Third-party tools?
Chris, yeah, whether we know or not right now at this moment, the capability is there. That is what we see, and virtually we can develop our own tool that can use it, right? Correct, using this XMLA endpoint, using Nugget libraries. So it's limitless. And one example I quoted was like MDX Studio, which is such an old tool. People who have worked with multi-dimensional cubes remember it was developed by Moshe back in 2008-9. So that tool, if you try to launch that tool and you try to connect using this particular endpoint, you'll be able to do that and execute an MDX on top of that. So it's fancy, and you see there you realize that how well this is knit together. So I haven't yet explored from Tableau endpoint. I will go back and check that. But yes, if they are if they are assessing it, they are using XMLA endpoint, it should be pretty much capable of doing that.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Also, I think it was also feedback from the last round that XMLA is the maybe the biggest addition of or most powerful addition of premium, and especially premium per user. And as you said, it's now to a broader audience, so it will definitely grow in usage there, I guess.
That's right. Yes, agree on that. And the pace has picked up ever since introduction of PPU and PPU going live in April. So that is where the power is in our hands.
Yeah.
You see, now we have this query. So this query executed on Profiler, and you can see this Profiler brought this down. So we have this running in Profiler too. So you could use any old tool. Then you realize that Profiler is also such an old tool, right? Old school tool. We use DAX Studio these days, but the power people who are comfortable with SQL Server Profiler still want to use that. So you're free to use that with XMLA endpoint capability. Profiler runs as good as it used to run on cubes.
So is the NuGet library, is it something official from Microsoft, or is it like an independent one? The NuGet package. I mean.
So that is the core. That's for the core platform is from Microsoft, and NuGet libraries are being contributed independently. So
And this is something. So do you have any other services there? So this extraction from tabular to the array, do you code it by yourself, or do you use something that's already in place there in this library?
So this library has, all the .NET libraries that used to exist. You can the methods that we have used here are .NET methods. So ADMD methods that are there. That is for instance, ADM establishing a connection, ADMD data adapter. So this is general .NET code that you write for ADMD libraries. Classically have written for accessing SQL Server as well. This is how you connect to them, and then you execute queries and then get back the data in any client application, traditional ASP.NET applications, service-oriented architecture applications in .NET side, the services that web services that we used to build from those traditional days. So same thing. It's just that we are using these libraries to connect to Power BI too. The way they used to connect to SSAS, used to connect to SQL Server, and then extending anything on top of that.
Okay, but you really have to know what you're doing when you like address some certain tables and columns in a.
So this is where the emphasis comes in. Yes. That is where these two worlds have to merge. The emphasis is on integration now. So the Power BI has matured, and now the next thing that needs to happen is how adapting Power BI the way world had adopted SSAS earlier as an entirely an analytics platform. And this is what architects have to act as a bridge. Now here we need someone with a capability who understands this. The .NET side of it, Nugget packages, .NET Core APIs, and a person who equally understands DAX and how to execute them on Power BI datasets, writing DAX queries. So you see, these things need to come together, bond together, so that the person who is excellent in DAX will bring up the DAX queries. They can set up an architecture, and then the .NET specialist can write the remaining code here. I do not recommend really that we go and explore, learn entire new thing here. That is learning writing .NET code. The idea here is to make the community familiar, that people who now know this can reach out to their .NET counterparts, .NET architects too, and explain to them that this is the capability that we bring from Power BI to this side, and together we can extend this, build up an enterprise solution altogether using Power BI.
Cool.
And maybe also as a reminder to everyone that basically these tools, so also whether it be Visual Studio or SQL Server, everything that Abhinav just showed here, you can try this out for free. So there are these community licenses that you can use. Of course, you need a premium per user or premium workspace to try it out, but even as premium per user, you can try for 60 days for free, and then you can really test out the whole package with these tools. So don't hesitate to try this out. That's really where you see the true power. And there were also recently a lot of blog posts from Microsoft regarding this XMLA capability. So exactly what you also mentioned, that with the unlimited potential that you have there, so from version control and everything, where you can really tie in then on an enterprise level a whole data chain and do it or build it much more flexible and robust than the normal Power BI uploading a report or a data set. And with these tools or with this capability, you get a lot more features out of it. So, and I can only encourage you to try it out.
Yeah, it's kind of a micro data warehouse.
Yeah,
like you can write your own logs, for example. This might be a use case. You can just take a few snippets of it for a single app, like where you can read something from the data set.
Yes.
This is
I mean, if you have a cool data model in Power BI, it's good that now you can access it from different angles and with different tools or with your custom solutions, which not only in an enterprise, but of course, especially in an enterprise level, is just way better than just having the classic Power BI.
Because sometimes I see in some clients the desire to like export some table from Power BI to import it somewhere, because Power Query is still good ETL, and now we can like automate this and make it more professional not just analyze in Excel.
Yeah.
That's right. Imagine I have a client application like an Angular application that wants totals to show total sales, right? And you already have a model in place, a measure in place where you could easily get total sales across a region. And now all you need to do is write up this, API and give it to the users so that they can hit this API, get back the data, total sales, and show it on their app.
Yeah.
Not just limited to Power BI anymore.
Yeah. And the cool thing is that you have shown that you can use DAX inside the code, and then you can, it's like, yeah, you can just copy paste it from DAX Studio if you
Right.
like, or from DAX 2. Yeah, it's
You just
very
need to
easy.
bring a team together, probably a .NET person, a Power BI person, and the client application person. Teamwork end of the day.
Yeah.
But yes, no one should address Power BI as just a visualization tool anymore.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Great.
No questions left, only appreciation. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. So finally some more dropped in during your introduction, Abhinav. So for summer, it's not that bad. Audience, you can stop the recording, I think.
Then yeah, so I will say to those watching the recording already, bye-bye.